People who are literally always late. Why? Story 1. My little brother is chronically late. Always has been his entire life. So many late slips getting to school. There was one time where I parked at the supermarket and waited in the car while he ran in. He said he would be 5 minutes. I said I'd time him. He came back 15 minutes later. I told him he had been gone for 15 minutes, and he was genuinely shocked. No way. I replied, you got out of the car at 3:04. It is now 3:19. You were indeed gone for 15 minutes. It seemed like the first time he realized that he didn't understand how long a minute was. He genuinely thought it had only been 5 minutes. So there's your answer. His internal sense of time is. Story 2. I once had a roommate who would never leave for anything until he was supposed to be there. He had this idea stuck in his head for years that you should never leave for anything until the event time. He got fired from job after job because he would never be on time. He was always whining that he missed the start of concerts, movies, etc. because he was always late. One time, he left to pick up his girlfriend in Vancouver a 4-hour drive away at the exact time she was due to arrive at the airport. He was over 4 hours late. They broke up soon after this. Being late is completely disrespectful to the people that are waiting for you. Story 3. Poor time management skills. I have a relative like this. Always one more thing to do. Ooh, I should water the plants before Now I'm ready. Ooh, maybe I should pay that bill while I'm out. Okay. Now I'm ready. Is that a crease? Maybe I should just give this blouse a quick iron. I had a gym buddy who was always 7 minutes late to our agreed-upon time to meet and work out. This happened often enough for me to purposely arrive 7 minutes late myself and we would start together. When I asked him about this because it got annoying, he didn't even really realize he was arriving late. I eventually figured out it took him 7 minutes to cycle from his home to the gym, and that the time we agreed was actually the time he left the house, not arrived at his location. He's a truly nice, thoughtful person who everyone likes, so I couldn't and still don't believe he was doing it on purpose. I also shared an apartment with him for a short time and noticed every time he left the house, he had to meticulously tidy up his computer room and straighten his keyboard, etc. And I don't think he noticed even that he was doing this and it was making him late. He didn't have any other OCD tendencies like this other than needing to meticulously restack the dishwasher before starting it. Lastly, he himself would say his father was always late to everything. His father is a successful businessman, and my friend really looks up to his father, so he most likely adopted this behavior subconsciously through mimicking. For those of us who are very particular about being on time, we probably got this from one of our parents too. Story 4. Quite a lot of identical replies so far, but one additional psychological term to check out is PDA. That can be pathological demand avoidance or persistent drive for autonomy. When someone with PDA doesn't have enough time for themselves, they'll allow the minimum possible amount of time for getting somewhere on time, or just not worry about being late. Story 5. Many years ago, I had a friend who agreed to meet me at the bus stop to head to university together. Every single time they would be 15 minutes late. Later on, when we were hanging out in their room, they told me they would see me from their window and that they would always spot me waiting at the bus stop. And that was their cue to start getting ready. No shame about it. I asked them to be considerate of me, but it never changed. I stopped waiting for them but continued to be friends with them despite how they would be late for everything. Years later, they get a job. Turns out they have no problem turning up on time for that. So, we're not really friends anymore. Story 6. I have ADHD but am consistently early, like it's an addiction for me to have 15 minutes to spare. In a way, it's also terrible, because I'm so hyper-focused on being early, I can't think of anything else during the day. My partner is autistic and is always late. I suspect he gets it in his head that certain things take an exact amount of time. Exit once took him only 15 minutes to get to work, so it must always take only 15 minutes to get to work, when it actually takes 20 on average, so he just carries on like that. I tell him to be places 15 minutes earlier than he should be, to make sure he's there on time. It works. And I'm already there every time. Story 7. I underestimate how much time I need to get ready while simultaneously trying to multitask other things I need to take care of before leaving the house. Sometimes, if it is early morning, I would have overslept. Sometimes I just don't care to go and you are seeing the result of me dragging myself out the house. Story 8. I ended a friendship once because she was able to be on time for work, class, and events she planned, but never anything I planned. It was a choice she was making. Story 9. They don't backwards plan, or at least not past the time they need to leave. My wife used to be like this until I started backwards planning for us. We have a flight at 8. It's boards at 7:30. We need to be at the airport by 6:30. It takes 30 minutes to get there, so we need to leave at 6. It takes an hour to get ready, so we need to wake up at 5. We want 8 hours of sleep, so we pack the night before and go to bed at 9. It takes an hour to pack, so we need to start packing at 8 p.m. It takes an hour to eat dinner, so we need to start eating. It takes 30 minutes to make dinner, so we need to start cooking at 6:30. Eventually, it all just flows day to day and you just don't think about it. But I understand how people's brains don't work like that. A Gen Z coworker at a previous job tried to claim a disability she called time blindness was making her late all the time and said that she couldn't be expected to be on time ever due to this. She would just show up when she wanted. However, she always managed to mysteriously be able to leave right on time at the end of her shift. She actually sued the company for unfair dismissal of a disabled employee. The judge apparently laughed her out of court. Story 10. On the other hand, the opposite, being always on time, might not be as easy as people might think it is. If I have an appointment for 12, my whole day is pretty much gone. I can't do anything before because I can't risk being kept by something and being late. And I can't plan anything before because I can't tell how long it's going to last. Even if I was 10 more times at exactly the same appointment and ended at 13, I'm not going to plan anything for 14. From the 10 to 12, I'll basically stay dressed up, doing nothing, waiting to go. I'll then go, be 15 or 20 miles earlier, and wait outside or in the car until I'm 5 minutes early. Story 11. My ex-husband, chronically always late, time blindness and selfishness. Regards it as other people's problem, regards being early as some kind of affront, has no concept that it inconveniences others, expects others to not be bothered. He's missed flights, trips out, the first half of theater shows he's paid good money for, ferries, meals with friends, etc., and let our kids down many, many times. I used to just lie about the real times of flights, etc., pre-online check-in, and electronic tickets, so we'd get to the airport on time. His attitude, they'll do that last call thing if I'm not at the gate on time. Had his new partner call me upset a few times when they first met, asking if I knew if he was okay or had been in a car wreck or something. Despite all of that, he's basically a good guy, and we co-parent amicably and are still great friends, but geez, it's been exhausting. Kids are now older teens and take it in their stride, but I've shouldered their disappointment over the years. On the regular, he picks them up after he finishes school. He's a teacher. His school day finishes at 3:15. His school is a 30-minute drive from mine. He's meant to pick the kids up around 56 p.m. It's always more like 3:07 p.m. He will then be stressed about being pressed for time when they've had evening activities to be taken to. Sigh. He will also sit in his car outside my house listening to music at full blast while reading his phone for 10 minutes when late to pick up before coming to the door. Zero awareness of others. His mother is the same but apologetic when late. His grandfather died due to running to get on a train he was late for, slipped and fell into tracks into the train's path. You'd have thought they'd have learnt. Of our shared kids, 2 always on time, early for things, but the one with ADHD struggles with time management when uneducated. Story 12. I'm late a lot. It frustrates me about myself and has frustrated others. I don't like letting people down and I'm stressed about being late, so I've spent some time analyzing why I do something so self-destructive. I think it's a few things. Perfectionism. I want to have optimized my time perfectly. I want to have achieved too many unrealistic things before I've left. If I am 10 minutes early for the train, I stand there thinking and worrying about the things I should have done in those 10 minutes instead. Things just seem to take me longer than everyone else. Always have done. I leave work late all the time, even though I want to be out of there because packing my bag up takes about 10 minutes. Everyone else's is done in seconds. I've watched people and I cannot work out what they're doing differently. I want to be faster. I am ready to go and somehow I've lost my keys. Put them in the same place. I have a place for them. Why the FK aren't they there? I find them in places I have no memory of putting them. These have included in a dressing gown pocket, in the fridge, still hanging in the door from when I last came in. I can't account for this every time because it can take anywhere between 1 to 60 minutes to find them. I can't leave 60 minutes early every time in case, right? Generally being behind in life, so cramming it all in before I go. I read a comment here about someone's email folding the washing before going on holiday, making them late, and why didn't she do it 2 days ago? For me, I wanted to do it 2 days ago, but something else urgent came up, and then I somehow forgot. And then it was rained on again, so I had to wait for it to dry, and you get the picture. So I end up doing things that make me late that I needed doing days ago. If I just start getting ready sooner, I still end up leaving at the same time. If I give myself 6 hours to get ready, it takes 6 hours. If I only have 30 minutes, it will take me 30. I choose a reasonable 1 HR, so I haven't just spent 6 hours of my day getting ready. This then means when something goes wrong, I have absolutely no time to spare, rather than maybe 10 minutes of leeway. Part of me believes a lot of people are 5 to 10 minutes late for a range of reasonable reasons, so it's kind of fine. I don't mind waiting if people are 10 minutes late. Things happen. I'll sit and look at the menu while waiting for my friend on a coffee date and watch the clouds. It makes a nice change from the running around. Is this ADHD? Possibly. TLDR. I may have been 10 minutes late, but that's probably saved me 2-3 hours of time somehow. Story 13. Bro, great question. It enrages me. It's so incredibly rude. Like you're not late to work, you're not late to doctor's appointments. It's disrespectful of me and my time. Very inconsiderate. I have ADHD and my son has autism and ADHD. Story 14. I think everything takes 5 minutes, but I have no concept of the actual passage of time. If I'm doing something, time whips by, but if I'm waiting around, time slugs along. It has nothing to do with the other people involved. Story 15. Short answer, ADHD. But I want to be clear, this is context, not an excuse. I am still responsible for being on time, despite having a disability that makes this challenging. Longer answer. Set alarms. Leave earlier. Plan ahead. I hear you. And I do. God, I swear to you that I do. What I need people to understand is that while those things help, they do not erase the underlying functional deficit. Imagine if someone was born without the neurons required to do mental math. Telling them how to do mental math, showing them how to write it out, teaching them tricks, etc., does not change the fact that they biophysically cannot do mental math. It is the same with me and time. The alarm that tells me that I need to leave in 10 minutes helps, but doesn't stop me from getting distracted. Then, the 5-minute alarm goes off and I still need to do 10 min worth of tasks. And so on. For people who are always early on time, I appreciate how disrespectful tardiness feels. Whenever I am running late, the only thing that I am thinking about is how much I hate myself for being late again. How I've inconvenienced someone once again, having to send that be there in 10 min. So sorry, text once again is humiliating. Being late for important academic job events fills me with shame and self-disgust. I cannot express enough how much I hate fighting my own brain to achieve something that is so simple for most people, just arriving at a place on time. It sounds so simple. It should be simple. For me and my neurobiology, it just isn't as something that I will be working on for the rest of my life. Not me, but one of my friends. Whenever we decide to do something and we plan the time, say like 7 p.m., he always says, okay, I'll finish my errands and come. If we decide to meet at 7 p.m., 5 a.m., or any time possible, he will make his errands run just before we meet so that he just takes one trip in the day instead of doing his errands early, then going back home, then out again to meet or something. I asked him once about respecting our time and to not be late or tell us in advance so we don't waste our time just waiting for him, and he always says, it's not a big deal. It's just 1 hour late. Well, I couldn't reason with him anymore, so I kind of cut him off. Story 16. I am a night person. Every year when I'm on vacation, my body naturally shifts to a later bedtime and a later wake-up time. It is far easier for me to be up until 4 a.m. than waking up at 6. I've tried turning off devices 2 hours before bed, taking warm showers, tiring myself during the day, every natural remedy you can think of. Because of this, I am almost always late in the morning. Being somewhere at 8 a.m. is an ongoing battle. I can be on time for 1 or 2 weeks, albeit exhausted every day, but it's a lot harder to keep it up for months at a time. I usually schedule everything in my life past 10 a.m., which is when I actually feel awake. But there are some things I can't change, and for those, I just accepted I will be 10 to 15 minutes late. My bosses know this, and because I usually work well at night, they see it as a nice fit. As we have night classes that no one wants to take, it just means my day is 4 to 6 hours late than everyone else's. Story 17. I had a mate who was late everything. So one time we give him fake meeting time, so we were meeting at 1 p.m., we told him 12:30 p.m. And hey presto, he's on time. Downside, everyone was so pleased with themselves they told him, so next time they gave him a start time, he assumed it was fake and was late anyway. For some things it didn't matter. Drinks round at a mate's house? Who cares if he's late? We're still having a good time and we're not going anywhere. But they still have him for it. The opposite would be the same. He'd invite us to his to hang out, we'd get there at the time he gave us and wouldn't be ready, so we'd have to stand around while he tidied and cleaned. In the early days, he'd ask to help cause it would be quicker, but as it kept happening, we surmised he was doing on purpose to get us to help him clean his house. So we stopped. Story 18. My wife is chronically late and it drives me crazy. What I have found is she has zero concept how long things actually take to do, and it's a series of compounding estimation errors that add up. She will typically get one thing right and then uses that as her estimation without factoring all the other steps that need to happen. Example. It takes 15 minutes to drive somewhere, so that means she can start to leave the house 15 minutes before she needs to be there, right? No, because it takes 3 to 5 minutes to wrangle a toddler to get their shoes on, gather jackets, bags, and water bottles. Another minute to walk out the door, get in the truck, and get the child buckled in his car seat. Then you can drive and get there. But when you do, it takes time to find parking, get the child out of the car, walk from the parking lot to wherever you're going. So, in order to get where you are going on time, You need a minimum of 10 minutes longer than it takes to drive somewhere to be on time, and that is barring unforeseen circumstances, which always happen. TLDR IME, chronically late people don't account for all the little things that add up. Story 19. I never used to be like this, but around 2016 when I started experiencing other health problems, I started just not being able to get there on time. I always used to get places an hour early. Now I aim to do the same in order to get there at the arrival time. It is so extremely upsetting. I've been to a neurologist and a therapist. I've tried ADHD meds, but no help. I know it's a real difference because I used to be the one angry at late people and thinking they have no respect for me. But now, for the life of me, I can't. I know that some of it is that getting ready takes longer and is more difficult, but if it was just physical pain, I think even old me would have managed to be there early. I don't know. I feel terrible about it. Story 20. My wife has a tendency to always be late, which has now caused me to always be late as well. While it is easy to say poor time management as an overarching reason for it, I have spent some time thinking about what actually causes this to happen. I know that she legitimately plans for many things and focuses on getting ready on time, so I find it hard to dismiss these efforts. Instead, what I've noticed is that she has this design in her mind of how things will go down to the minute. With this setup, she would arrive at her destination exactly on time. However, as we all know, things don't go as planned or are forgotten, etc. She will set an alarm and assume she will wake up and be moving on the first bell, and be upset when I set an alarm 15 minutes prior because she doesn't need to be awake yet. Then there's an unforeseen bathroom stop, or a longer than expected breakfast session. Oh wait, she's actually got an extra 5 minutes. That means she can squeeze in one more thing that she has to do while she's in this productive mode. However, that ends up taking 10-15 minutes cheaper. This all adds up to her being anywhere from 5 to 45 min late, depending on the cascade, and yet she cannot shake the perfectly set up timelines that she creates. The only thing we've been able to really make work is focus on being ready like 45 minutes beforehand, because we will then usually get out around on time. Story 21. I used to always be late. I had this sort of absent-minded professor syndrome. I would have to be somewhere at 6, I would look at a clock and see that it was 5:55 and go, oh, I have plenty of time. And it would be a 30-min drive. I eventually worked my off to get over this. Now, however, wife and I get late often because of my toddler. LOL. Everything is going well, gonna leave 30 minutes early, then bam, blowout diaper and temper tantrum. So leaving 5 minutes late. Story 22. Most these replies are people answering for their friends or family, and I don't think most are accurate. I'm late quite often. The only things I'm usually on time to are things that could have a heavy effect on my life and wallet. So work, always on time, otherwise I'd be fired. Have a flight to catch, always on time because I can't afford another 1,000 ticket. Meeting up with friends at a bar, up to 20 minutes late. Class in college, usually late. If there aren't severe consequences for being late, I most likely will be. It's not due to poor time management. It'd say I excel there in my work and school life. It just comes down to anxiety. I get really nervous leaving the house, so I do everything I can to avoid getting ready to leave. Not quite sure what it is. Lots of times I'll even cancel plans because I just don't want to leave. Story 23. Kind of interesting. I think that for some of us, time is actually hard to track or understand. I know that sounds cuckoo bananas, but I have dyscalculia, and I had a hard time conceptualizing time for years. It wasn't until I got a job where I could only be 5 minutes late that I really cracked down and started to work on time management and finding ways to conceptualize time that worked for me. For some reason, dividing 1 hour into 4 15-minute blocks helped me to see that an hour isn't that long. It's like I thought of an hour as 100 minutes before I really sat down and thought about it. It also helped me a lot to calculate the time I needed to drive somewhere and then set a deadline for when I need to leave. That gives me a little buffer. I know it sounds so stupid, but it's been a problem for me my whole life, starting with reading a proper clock in like 2nd grade. Story 24. A lot of people are just terrible at gauging how much stuff actually takes. I have ADHD and hate getting to things early late, so I know exactly how long everything takes to prep and leave, so I get there within 5 minutes of the start time. Story 25. Overwork, stress, and anxiety. Outright depression at times. I used to be and am a person who is capable of being on time. However, for years I wasn't. During this time, every step from starting to get ready to leave to the point I actually stepped out, the door felt like climbing a mountain. Normal routines caused pure mental exhaustion. Stepping out the door 15 minutes later than planned was a win for me. Some, if not many, people are insultingly inflexible with time. It's of course understandable if your schedule is busy or dependent on another fixed timetable, but It's not usually important to know if you'll arrive EO 900 or EO 930 if you just said your schedule is open before lunch. Current me might be annoyed if someone is late to a meeting or meetup, but honestly, it's rarely a big deal, though it can be OFC. Regardless, it's an additional waste of time and won't solve anything to work yourself up over it. Story 26. I'm depressed, so everything takes longer. But I feel like if I give myself the time I know it'll take for me to do stuff, I'll never go faster. So I only set aside the time I think something should take, and what do you know? I'm late again. Story 27. I usually get ready ahead of time, wait till exact time to get there, then I keep forgetting something while leaving and then usually have to come all way back. Story 28. Perfectionism, bad planning, insecurity. Looking for keys and cards too late. Solved it by always keeping my keys in same drawer or jack pocket. The rest was solved by working with people dependent on me. I felt it was disrespectful of me to let them do it, even for 5 minutes. Story 29. I like to think I'm a natural optimist. I leave near enough the exact amount of time that it takes to get anywhere. Of course, that falls down when I forget I need to pack lunch, rush hour traffic, etc. Story 30. I try. I really do. And it's not that I don't value your time, I sabotage things that are really important to me all the time because I just completely at time management. It's like being colorblind to the way time works. I set alarms, I write notes, I tell myself how much time I have left before events. It's maddening that I can't force my brain to work correctly. I even bought a special clock that has a visual countdown indicator for when I have to leave the house. I have thrown a lot of money at this problem, and the only thing that seems to work is to have someone else lie to me about the start time. Story 31. 2 things I hate: being stressed, and I don't mind if someone is 5-10 minutes late, so as long as it's only 5-10 minutes, I take it slow. Second, I hate being early, and I hate people being early when they have to come to me. Actually, most people seem to not like that, so sometimes I deliberately waste time and then am 5 to 10 minutes late. Story 32. Honestly, half the time when I'm late to something, it's because I don't want to be waiting and standing around there. Subconsciously, I will try to time it out to where I arrive as the thing is about to start. As you can expect, any unexpected variable causes you to be late. Story 33. My mom in her 70s has been chronically late for everything my whole life. Once I had my own child and a time schedule became more important to me, I told her that if she's more than 15 minutes late and with no notice, I leave. She's always on time now after a couple of incidents. Story 34. My girlfriend is like that. It's a mix of time blindness and poor time management, both linked to her ADHD. She always thinks she has the time to do more things than she actually does. In a way, I don't get it because I also have ADHD and I'm usually early, but I think I developed a lot of strategies for that, checking the clock all the time, factoring in extra time. On the other hand, I am very messy, which she is not. Story 35. ADHD. I struggled for many years with this. Now I have coping mechanisms and processes that help. It's called time blindness. Many people with ADHD struggle to accurately perceive the passage of time. They may underestimate how long tasks will take or get caught up in activities without realizing how much time has passed. Story 36. I'm going to get downvoted too. But can't we say the actual reason? They are. Outside of severe disability, this is the reason. I think things take shorter than they do, or I forget things and have to go back, are just excuses. Everyone, if given $1 million, would be on time. They aren't though, because they don't give a. Story 37. I need to be in multiple places at once, and am always going to be shortchanging one of my responsibilities. Work, parenting, family, housework, and am complicatedly chronically ill. I hate it so much. Story 38. Love that the responses are filled not by the chronically laters, but by the people who hate them. For some, it's called time blindness. Look it up, especially prevalent in the neurodivergent. Not everyone is doing it selfishly or maliciously. I've struggled with this most of my life. Even when I sat down to plan things out, I would still be late. One thing that helped me was realizing you can't plan things based on everything going right. If Google says it takes 20 minutes to get somewhere, you can't start 20 minutes before arrival. You will somehow still be late. The world is imperfect. Something throughout the journey will always slow you down. Seems incredibly obvious, but it's not for all people. My process now is to work backwards. State the appointment time, the building arrival time, the travel time, the leave house time, the get ready time, each phase with extra time budgeted in. That's when I start getting ready to leave, not just the time to travel there. Apparently, for most people, this can all occur in your head without really even thinking about it. I can't fathom what that must be like. Everyone's different. Most people try their best. Everyone struggles with something. Sometimes you need to accept people for who they are, like a personality quirk, rather than thinking it's intentional behavior to be mean and caring. Never met a chronically late person who expected everyone to wait for them. Why this trait receives so much hate more than other negative traits that affect other people. E.g. I find very curious. Story 39. Friends and I were playing a game that involved everyone closing their eyes and opening them after 70 seconds. Whoever was closest won. It took me 3 minutes, and everyone else was done for ages. So, it's probably something to do with that. No internal clock, I suppose. Story 40. When this was more of a challenge, I actually think there's an unconscious power game at play. I don't like to admit it, but I have a faint memory of reading something about how the late person is disrespecting the other people's time and asserting dominance. It stirred something. Now, when I'm late, it feels more like seasonal depression, ADHD, or an unconscious resistance to going to this one fitness studio. Management gives frenemy vibes. Maybe it's the power game coming back. Story 41. As someone who is often late to things, I think it's just a character flaw, like people who can't help but exaggerate stories or tell white lies, or be social justice warriors and correct the most benign behaviors. I haven't had time to self-inspect why I'm late. I'll almost never be late for work meetings, but I'm casually late to dinner parties, events, movies, doctor appointments. I usually don't end up missing these things. I.e., I make the movie before trailer finishes, the doctor still sees me, I'm often one of the last few to board, but I don't miss the flight. I'll be late to parties, but almost never the last one to arrive. I guess I just haven't had many negative experiences or people express it's a problem. Story 42. I get anxiety about leaving the house before I go anywhere. I try to put it off as long as possible. Once I'm on the road, I'm fine, but that 15 minutes or so leading up to departure is a living nightmare. Story 43. I have kids. The amount of time it takes to put on shoes expands to fill the amount of time that exists until you have to leave. Even if you are in the car early, someone will have to pee. Or will pee, and then you have to get both of the kids out of the car and back into the house to deal with that. And then the whole process starts over. Yes, even if you triple check before getting into the car, if somehow you manage to trick the universe and get out the door early, you will get stuck behind a school bus. Or a politician will be making a surprise visit nearby, and your usual route will be flooded with traffic from the closed roads. The universe always wins. Story 44. I do also genuinely suffer from time blindness. It took me until my mid-20s to develop techniques to manage it and be on time so I was not stressing out perpetually. It took until my mid-30s to develop good techniques. I still have zero concept of time. This will take 25 minutes 4 hours later and I will be halfway through a task. It sucks. Story 45. I'm not playing devil's advocate for late PPL, but in other cultures it's tied to religion. Not necessarily being late, but living life as God intended and not tied to a timeline. If you're out the door and someone wants to chat, that is God saying he wants you to stop and chat. Plans fluctuate based on availability. It's rude to Western ideals but consider normal for others. Story 46. I'm always on time. Just on time. So, slightly late. My life is chaos. I work too much. Every minute counts. Sometimes my only time to relax and get some downtime is between commitments I make, and it appears I'm a people pleaser. Story 47. My brother usually leaves with barely enough time to get anywhere, and when I suggest leaving early, he gets offended as if had just committed a crime against nature. Story 48. My mom is always at least 15 minutes late to every event that she didn't plan herself. I have no idea how she manages to, but every single year we're late to Christmas, Thanksgiving, even leaving for vacations. I literally don't understand. Just get ready. OMFG. Story 49. Time blindness from ADHD. There are two distinct time periods. Not yet, and right the now. OMG run, you idiot. You did it again. Why are you like this? Then, I'm less than 5 minutes late. There are no consequences and it happens again tomorrow. Sorry, optimist. Always think things will take less than they do. Story 50. I've been kicked out of first period high school classes, and I've lost jobs because I am always late. My BFF used to tell me to arrive at places 12 hours before something was scheduled to start. Why? No clue. It's like I trick myself into believing I can do things in less time than it actually takes, like showering, wrapping a gift, finding my shoes, LOL. My mom is the same way. I've gotten much better over the years, but it used to be a big problem. I've heard that it's due to selfishness, like I don't value other people's time or feelings, and that is not true at all. I would constantly beat myself up for being such a loser, and the embarrassment that comes with being constantly late can be significant. But yeah, don't know what I was always like that. Story 51. I've made a lot of progress so far, and am now sometimes the first one to arrive. But even now, I'm late to a lot of things work, important life events, things that I don't want to be late for all included. And I've realized it mostly stems from two things: poor impulse control and time blindness. First thing, I'd be getting ready and then see something that needs to be done or I want to do, and I'd immediately do it. No hesitation because there was no conscious step between not doing the thing and doing it. I've made it a hard rule to never do anything outside preparing to leave, ever since I realized this was a major thing that was making me late. Second thing, time blindness. Poor time management skills, bad at perceiving time passing. I even struggle to calculate time, especially when I'm tired groggy. So as a coping mechanism, I'd taken to setting multiple alarms for when I need to be up, shower, clothe myself, get out the door so that I'd arrive 5–10 minutes early. Foolproof plan, right? Somehow between being on time to leave and actually leaving, like literally walking out of my room to get to the front door, with all the alarms rung and done, it's like I'm in a limbo. And if I'm not lucky, the first thing kicks in again, but all things that make sense, like, oh wait, I need to feed the cat before I leave because I won't be back until the evening. Or, oh, now that I'm looking at it again, this shirt doesn't look good, has a stain, so I should put on another one real quick. Then I'll realize I should have been out the door 15 minutes ago. These days, I've taken to not turning off the last alarm to keep my mind on track until I close the front door behind me. But sometimes I forget and turn it off. Maybe I should set a backup drop whatever you're doing and leave now alarm. Writing all this down makes me realize I really should get screened for ADHD LMAO.